So this is a video that I've wanted to make for you guys for a while. This is something I've been working on behind the scenes, and today I want to sit down and talk to you guys about the reality of Twitch streaming, about the reality of content creation and growth, and some of the reasons why it might feel almost daggum near impossible to have success in this modern age of content creation. But don't fret, I'm going to hopefully demystify all of it and answer any questions you have along the way. But if this video doesn't answer your questions, sound off below and I can hopefully give you guys answers in the future. But this is inspired from a tweet from King Ithalian saying embedded streams shouldn't count to views. It's false metrics, it's borderline view botting. You can have your stream as a 1 pixel unviewable image on a wiki and still count everyone on that page as a viewer without their knowing. Why are streamers more angry about this? Big reason is a lot of streamers didn't know about it. In fact, I didn't really know about this system for a couple of months ago, and then all of a sudden I discovered one of the reasons why, as a semi-average, or we were usually average around 100, 120 viewers on stream. Why does it feel like we're constantly behind everybody else? I went and started digging and I found my answers. Now, I'm not judging anybody who embeds, not at all. In fact, I actually found out how to get embedded and did it 3 times just to see how it felt, just to look at the numbers and really give you guys a raw and true report about what is going on here. And that's what this video is going to explore today. So let's get into the real information, the raw metrics, and the reality of what it means to be a Twitch streamer here in 2022, 2023. And let's demystify this, shall we? All right, so let's kick this off right. We're gonna go old school tech here with Notepad. This video is gonna break it down into kind of 5 key ideas. We're gonna talk about the reality of gaming content, Twitch embedding, what it is and what it is not, how you grow on Twitch, why Twitch doesn't want to kill embedding, and the unknowns that I don't have answers for just yet. I was hoping to get those answers, but King Ithalian's tweet, I think, kind of really brought the necessity of making this video out to the public sooner rather than later. Now, what is the reality of gaming content? Gaming content exists in several different seasonal cycles. For MMOs and for games as service games, I call this the 3 seasons: hype, grind, and then bitch or complain about it. So hype and grind is that the natural ads, the natural excitement, get people to consume and jump into content and want to dive in and get it, build that up. Then the grind season comes out, the game is actually released or the update's actually released. You go and you can play and you consume it and you have a really good time. And then eventually you finish all of the content and then you complain about it until the next cycle or into the next game. And those are the 3 seasons. Maybe those apply more to like MMOs and games that have those games as service updates, but those are the reality of it. Now, in terms of content creators and growth, a lot of growth comes from the natural excitement of hype or the natural expansion of a system like Twitch or YouTube. One of the big reasons why some of the people who are the biggest on the platform is they were first, and Twitch is a kingmaker system, meaning the biggest people grow to be the biggest people. And it becomes very, very difficult to break into that cycle, into that loop. Now, it can be done. There are absolute exceptions to each and every one of these things. But generally speaking, if you really want to grow within gaming, my advice is that you got to lean into something you're passionate about. And a gamble ends up being you lean into a game that isn't out yet. Become the authority on that game, make the content around that game, and as people get hyped about that game, as ads start to go out to the world about that game, they're advertising your channel, they're advertising your content, because people will start to search about that game, and then you get discovered through it, and you grow because of it. Now, there's also a downside, because once hype dies down, so do the numbers, so do the metrics, and a lot of new players, a lot of new content creators can kind of have a feeling, a very personal feeling during that period of they're not good enough, or imposter syndrome, or what happened? Everything was going so great. I thought everything was just going to keep going up. Numbers don't always go up. That's just the reality of it. But in terms of gaming content, if you were going to sit down and tell me today, you want to jump into a game that has an established group of content creators, you're going to have to work 10 to 100 times harder to get yourself established within that group, because viewers might be just comfortable with the content creators that they discovered. This is the nature of it. This is just human nature. There's no ill will, there's no conspiracy. It's just the reality of how humans consume content and how they move forward. That's the reality. I would advise you to say, pick a game, you're gonna take a risk. Maybe the game works out, maybe it doesn't, and understand absolutely everything about that game. Be the authority figure on that game, and as the numbers and everything grow, so will you. and then you just wait for the next hype cycle and you find ways to make content. And that's the YouTube metric. The Twitch side is different. Twitch side is be big, always be big, never stop being big, never stop streaming. And that's the reality a lot of people face. Now, one thing is true, that if people are embedding, especially like the 1 pixel by 1 pixel, they're actually in violation of Twitter's, Twitch's own settings here. Now, they recommend that it's 400 by 300, the size of the player, which could show up on the site. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's also advertising the stream. But if it is hidden, if you can't see it, that seems to be where Twitch would probably take issue, but I don't think they want to overall enforce this, because embedding these streams, having these streams on these wikis and these sites, inflates the numbers across the board for the entire site. It's a kingmaker system. If you went and took this away, we'll talk about why Twitch doesn't want this to go away, but if they went and decided to take this away out the gate, I think that would impact advertisers. I think ultimately a lot of people might feel a little bit bamboozled by Twitch and the metrics, because if you're really not getting that engagement that you're paying for, well, I think that could be a lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer, I don't want to presume, but that's just the reality of it. Now, like I said, we've been embedded on a wiki for 3 different streams, and those streams 6x to 10x our normal numbers. Our numbers can range anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000, and overall we saw 6,000 to 10,000 views on a live stream, not like all at the same time. So I'm talking about the overall total views that it calculates, and that's actually really impressive. All in all, it's taken our stream usually from 100, 120 to 600, 700, 800. And we've had those bigger numbers before in the past, but they're not so consistent, because in order to keep those numbers up, there's things that you have to do that usually we were willing to not compromise on, like lean more into the drama, because that's a lot of what you see on Twitch as well. It is this kind of high school musical without so much musical talent. There are definitely talented people doing music out there, but that is the reality. But note that there's plenty of dev documentation. Like, this isn't something that Twitch hides from people. You can search it. You just might not have known the term. You might not have known why many people are maybe growing faster than you, and it's because of that kingmaker system. Let's get back to our outline here. How do you grow on Twitch? Be the biggest guy on Twitch. This is a human nature aspect. There are obviously exceptions. I know people are already out there like, it's about building community, it's about doing these things. They're not wrong, but human nature would have one of 2 things happen. You look at 2 options. One option's got 1,000 people waiting in line. Option 2, it's got 5 people waiting in line. Like, you, no matter what, might go more often than not, ask what's going on in the 1,000-person line. That's the same thing. Live streaming is competitive content, where YouTube and video is more VOD-driven content. That's more collaborative, especially how YouTube has its algorithm. But competitive content means that more or less that people are going to go check out what's going on with the biggest people more often than not. The exceptions do happen, but those are the reasons why they're called exceptions. They're not every day, all the time. And so people are going to be driven into these bigger content streams. And if that person is a legitimate authority, they're going to stick around, and they're not going to necessarily discover you that day. They maybe discover you in the future. And that's why I say, if you want to grow on Twitch, you better be doing YouTube. You better be having some content create that discoverability for you, and then maybe you'll be able to drive people to your stream. Chances are that's going to be a 1 to maybe a 3% click-through. So if you're getting around a couple hundred views, think about 1% of those might actually check out your stream. That's normal. That's kind of the average of what happens. That's the same average. That's the same engagement I get when Asmongold reacts to one of my videos. I get maybe a 1% click through. That's why you got to react back to Asmon. Otherwise, he's just taking the lion's share and having the final say in it. Not saying that that's anything wrong with it. There's just no other recourse that a content creator has, if he gets reacted to. So being that click-through is absolutely abysmal. Like and subscribe, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, why does Twitch not want to kill this? Well, I think the simple answer is money. Money, 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 money. Now, this also ties into number 5. What do we not know? Well, I don't know if this actually impacts ad spend revenue. We haven't had enough data. We haven't had that consistency in it. And when it comes down to it, like our supporters, which are amazing, keep the channel rocking and rolling. And so we don't necessarily live and die off ad revenue, but I can tell you, it would be nice like if this ended up proving out to be something that also had that same level of impact on any kind of ad share, ad spend, then I would say you're crazy not to embed. If it is legitimately holding you back from being on top, especially if you have the content, if you are the creator, if you are the person in the authority that can answer the people's questions, then the only choice you have is to embed. Because unless Twitch actively enforces this, unless they come in and say, here's what we're going to do, we're going to get rid of embeds, etc., I think you're going to end up seeing a huge drop in numbers all across the board. And then ultimately, maybe the playground's more fair, but it's still going to be a kingmaker system. And if you're not doing YouTube, you're not going to be growing over on Twitch. So that being said, is that if we ever do find out, if I ever do discover what it means to be like that kind of successful and all of a sudden that ad spend starts coming in, it's only going to incentivize more and more people to do it. And because it's not illegal, because you're not doing anything wrong, people can have a legitimate frustration at you, people who aren't doing it, and that's fair. And that's where I think you're going to end up seeing a lot of drama, a lot of friction, a lot of names being called out. In fact, King Gathalion starts going off and trying to call out some names as well. Interesting strategy. We'll see if it works out for him. But at the end of the day, Twitch doesn't look at this as illegal. Now, I think that they might take some umbrage with like some of these, like if somebody's doing a one pixel aspect, yeah, that might be a problem. We'll have to see if that changes. But beyond that, even if it wasn't, like even if they were doing like the 300 by 400, like I've seen lots of sites do that for a lot of different games. It actually advertises a streamer. And so you might start to see more content creators bundling up and teaming up with like wiki producers and things like that, sites and stuff and things like that. So maybe we'll see more collaboration between the different forms of mediums out there for gaming going forward. But that's what I wanted to sit down and tell you guys today. What is Twitch embedding? What it's not. It's not illegal. It's not like a view botting where you're paying for viewers, which if you're doing that, that's absolutely absurd. Don't do that. You're just throwing money into a pit, and they're just taking your money and they're not going to help you out. But embedding, it's the system that exists. And if you aren't aware of it, you are now. You can let me know how you think about it, how you feel about it in the comments. If you have questions about it, sound off and let me know. But if this isn't an illegal move, if Twitch doesn't want to come down and start making changes across the board, which if they did, I think you'd see that Twitch's numbers aren't what they're made out to be. And then I think you start to see some bigger conversations and bigger shifts happening. Anyway, guys, I appreciate your time today. Hopefully you found this video informative, educational, entertainmentful, one way or the other. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video, but until then, take care.